All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for an exciting webinar. Tonight is a very special day, and this webinar is very special because we get to celebrate women who are trailblazers within the technology field. We get to celebrate women who have been doing amazing things, having amazing programs, and creating a positive impact within the data analytics field. You know, a lot of us young women and, young men within our communities as well, when you're looking from afar and you're looking at amazing things that, great people within the field are doing, we always wonder, how do I get started? What is the starting point? And today, as we celebrate women in data, as we celebrate our amazing panelists and our amazing guest speakers that we have tonight, one thing I want to encourage everyone is have an open mind, be ready to learn, and be ready to follow ways in which these amazing women have used to create strides in the industry, and pay attention to some of the advices that they are going to be giving us as we start our program. One of the reasons why this webinar is also very important to me and is important to us in the community, as the Zindi community, is because as Zindi, as you can see, our hashtag is building AI together. One of our core competencies and one of our core goals is to encourage and have more women joining the artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science field. Statistics don't lie. We have a lower number of women taking up technology roles, technology jobs, and feeling confident within the technology field. Tonight, we are doing away with all of the negative perspectives for women in AI and women in data science. Tonight is to show that we have women who are making great strides within the data science industries, women who are breaking the glass ceilings within the AI field, data analytics field, and women who are using data to make a positive impact within our communities and within our organizations. So firstly, what is Zindi? Who is the organizer of this community? Zindi is a professional network for data science whose mission is to mobilize a vibrant community of data scientists across Africa, solving the region's most pressing problems. As you're going to see within this webinar, our speakers, our panelists are coming from different countries within the African globe. And as Zindi, we boast of putting together different women in data science, different men in data science, and creating a community where Africans are coming together to solve real life problems which Africans are facing within the different countries. So you find that with Zindi, this network is not only for you to just, network with people, it's a network for you to grow your skills, find opportunities, and at the same time, create a positive impact within the world, create a positive impact within the community. As we have mentioned before, today we are celebrating women in data, and we are celebrating with prominent women within our data science community. Within our panelists and our keynote speakers who are going to be introducing themselves, you'll find that we have very powerful women within our midst tonight, women who are going to be sharing their journey with us, women who are going to be guiding us through their experience, women we should be ready to learn from. So just a few housekeeping rules as we begin our segment and as we begin our session. Firstly, feel free to participate in the discussion. I'm going to ask each and every one of you from our participants who are joining in today, please let us know your name. Please let us know what you are currently doing. Are you just out of school? Are you working? Are you a professional? And please let us know what country you're coming from. And please let us know what you expect to learn and what you expect to take away from this discussion. We are really excited to meet all of you virtually from your different countries where you are and meeting together in this global webinar. So please feel free, share your names, share what you're doing, share what you expect to learn, and also please share the countries that you're coming from and joining us in from tonight. Another crucial thing, please make sure that you mute when you're not speaking. If you have a question, if you have a contribution, please feel free to type it in the chat box or raise your hand using some of the controls that we have for Zoom. We really want you guys to participate in this discussion. It's a discussion, and we really want to hear your views as well and your journeys that you've been going through within your journey in data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Please also feel free to use the chat section to drop questions as well as interact amongst each other. As mentioned before, we highly encourage interaction because it's only when we interact, we get to know the value that each and one of us will be able to provide to the next person. So the next segment is very interesting. So just to highlight the time that we have tonight and how our session is going to be going, we have just introduced the event, and we are going to have a keynote speech by our wonderful and well-accomplished Dr. Mboni, who is going to be talking to us for about 30 minutes. Please do not be shy to ask your questions. This is the moment to ask her the questions. You have found her here. She has dedicated her time. Let us utilize as much time as we can while we have her. And then after which, we are going to have our Women in Data panel discussion, and we're going to have our question segment. I will also encourage each and every one of you to make sure that you utilize this moment. Ask the ladies within the panel discussion as much questions as you're going to have, because you may not be able to find and get as much of their time as you will have today. We will then open up the room for a question and answer segment, and then we will conclude our session. So without wasting much more time, we will move to this very important segment where we are going to be having our keynote speaker, who is the leader of Girls in AI Initiative, Dr. Mboni Kibelloh, who is the founder and director of DarasaTech. I will allow much of this time to Dr. Mboni Kibelloh to also introduce herself to us so that we can get to know her in detail. She is a very humble woman, but she is a well-accomplished woman who has established a lot of great things within the AI field. So at this moment, I would like to humbly call upon Dr. Mboni onto the stage and allow her 30 minutes to, talk to us and give us her presentation. Dr. Mboni, I hand over.
Wow, thank you very much for this very warm introduction. And thank you very much for even in the introduction about Zindi. It was quite eye-opening. It really also broadened my understanding of the movements which are going on around to have more women in tech. And I believe it is fantastic. I hope you can all hear me. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
And I also am not sure if I have permission to share. Yes.
Please go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. Wow. I'm trying to do everything from my phone, so much apologies for the... I'll start with an introduction about myself as I'm working on this. I'll try and multitask. So my name is Mboni. You can call me on my first name basis. It is very fine. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very honored to be invited to share whatever I know and my journey so far. I am from Tanzania, so I'm speaking from Tanzania currently. Okay, I think I can do this. I am having a little hard time for my phone because I was supposed to be using my computer, but the power went off.
We can help you share it, Dr. Mboni. Just share the slides and we can help for them. Okay.
All right, okay.
All right.
Right here, it is coming. It is coming, just a minute.
Okay.
Just a minute. I might even have to freestyle. Would you guys allow me to freestyle?
That's all right. You have the knowledge that we need to hear. That is absolutely okay. But if you're comfortable, you could share your slides with us and we could share them from our end.
Okay. Just need to
just let me know what works best for you, if you'd like to share the slides or if you'd like to freestyle.
Either one is fine. So I have my thing on the phone, and when I'm trying to share it,
okay, that's all right. We could give you more time to prepare and we could start with our panel discussion, because I do believe that the information that you have to share with our audience is very crucial and we do not want to miss any of the information that you have to share with us. So let me know if you are winning or we can jump on to the next segment.
I think we are with just I think we're winning. I think we're winning.
All right, awesome.
Can you see me? Can you see the? Can you see what I've broadcasted? Is it on?
Yes.
Is what I've broadcasted on?
It's on. We can see.
Perfect. Okay. So DarasaTech, the word Darasa in Swahili means class. So for all you Swahili speakers, you know what class is, right? Darasa is class. And so I am from DarasaTech, founder of DarasaTech, director of DarasaTech. And I think even before this, before even showing this slide, I was actually telling you a little bit about my background, or starting to tell you a bit about my background. So I'm also a lecturer, university lecturer. I've been surrounded by students, like I think for 6 years now. I'm interacting with students year in, year out. And in that interaction, I serve as a lecturer in ICT, in various subjects, also in data analytics and data science. My background before becoming a lecturer is I worked in corporate. I was in corporate Tanzania. I was in telecoms. And for a number of years, since 2007, I had found myself in data science without even, by then it wasn't called data science. It was just whatever it was called. So I just found myself dealing with a lot of big data and analyzing for management so that they can make decisions. And I stumbled upon it, and I enjoyed it. I liked it. There was a lot of challenges, but I learned to appreciate the importance of data when at a time when people are not even talking about data. And there were so many companies which are running around without, which had big data. In fact, even back then there was big data without even appreciating the essence of that. So yes, I'm also a researcher. I'm also a consultant in the area of data science, in business analysis and digital marketing. So I'm quite versatile. Yeah, so that's my experience, and that's a little bit about myself. I will welcome question and answers later on. If anybody would be interested to know a little bit more or how I got into this, I'll be more than happy to share my experiences. So DarasaTech is, what is DarasaTech? It's basically a space. It's an innovation space that provides digital skills training in emerging technology. It also provides a platform for ideas, for people to come and incubate their ideas so that they can take them to the market. It's also a platform or a place where we do consulting on various technological areas. So anybody who's interested in our services in the area of the science or websites and digital marketing, we are there. So our mission really is to address the digital gap and to support the digital transformation movement. I'm very enthusiastic about that. And it is our hope, or it is also my hope in the team, that these initiatives will help to drive the state of unemployment in Tanzania among the youth, but also particularly passionate about girls and in tech, especially with the experience that I've been through, particularly interested in this is probably what is driving the mission here at DarasaTech. We're trying to address the issue of digital skills gap, not only in artificial intelligence or in data science, but just in tech in general. What we had found is that when we were offering really high-end, high-tech courses, we found that people come in and they don't even have the basic knowledge of how to hold a mouse, what is hardware and the operating system. So we've actually learned from that, and we're actually going back to basics. And even before offering all these high-tech and kind of courses, we go to the basics. We don't really mind or are not concerned with the background of the individual as long as they're keen to learn. So whether they have formal education or they don't have formal education, we accept them. We train people who are entrepreneurs. We train people who are in the offices, who are trying to upskill and gain more knowledge, or also interested in the gender gap as mentioned, and just digital transformation overall, and not just as an individual, but for organizations and for companies. We're targeting students. They say, reach to them when they're young, when they're trying to learn, when they're becoming. So we talk to primary school students, we talk to secondary and university students. We also talk to entrepreneurs, we talk to corporate, as mentioned earlier. And we offer 21st digital literacy skills, cutting edge skills that are in line with the fourth industrial revolution. We complement what is being already offered in universities. Universities are very, theory-based and concept-based, and we appreciate everything that is done in university. All we are trying to do is offer the practical side of whatever that is being taught in the shortest time possible. We have a training center, so we have labs here with computers. So we understand that when youth especially at universities, they might not have access to computers or digital devices. So we have a space that has computers, that has internet, and is welcoming of people who want to learn and who do not have resources, and they can come and have access to our resources. We also have industry expertise in the sense that the trainers who come and teach here, they are from the industry and not textbook-led or textbook taught. We're dealing with people who are already practicing what they're in the field, what they're doing in the field, and bringing it to the classrooms. We are also fostering and nurturing strong network of students and youth. So we do this through clubs, which I'll touch more in the next coming slides. So why DarasaTech? Why learn here? We're not saying that you should skip all the other formal education. We're just saying we are here because we want to complement whatever that is being taught. And we have one goal and one mission only, and that is to help people employ themselves through technology, for people to become techpreneurs, for people to be comfortable enough to play with data so that they can go and create products that solve community issues so that they can be an authority in their own field. A lot of this work also has to do with mind shift change. It has a lot to do with sensitization and just motivating and showing youth that there is a possible career option. There's another career option that people can embark on that is lucrative, not only financially, but it is empowering, and it is something that can help lift community. So we are busy, really busy trying to open an awareness and mindsets towards this area. So a little bit about the history of DarasaTech, where we started. I think based on everything that I've said, at the very heart of everything is the deep, deep desire to lift communities, for them to participate in the tech industry, which is growing, and it is growing whether we want to or not. It's growing and it is leaving people behind. So deep down, there's this desire. So around 2018, DarasaTech started off as a blog and trying to document cool stories about youth who are doing amazing things in society. And it doesn't even have to be very big. It could be somebody who's using their WhatsApp to do business and to trade. So the focus was on university students and trying to showcase their stories. And we did that for a while. And around 2019, we started doing boot camps because I felt like people were ready after the sensitization. They were ready to get some more. So we would do boot camps and we'd move them across the city, and we'd have students come and learn different one-day programs. Now, one challenge that we saw from this is that when you are talking about maybe learning something like mobile application, people would come in without laptops, or even phones. So it became a bit of a challenge to for them to practice what was being taught. So after a while, it became more apparent that in order for these boot camps to be more successful and more effective, there was a need to open labs where people could come in, regardless of whether they have resources or not. They could just come in and enjoy the facilities. And as you know, practice makes perfect. You need to be around these tools so that you can feel comfortable and to break that barrier of fear of technology. So in 2022, DarasaTech physical location was born, and I guess you can say the rest is history. A number of projects that we have been able to have were around digital inclusion. We've had training. We have been able to train through our partners. We have been able to train 37 NGOs with 37 NGOs. Is it 30 or like around 30? So pardon me, around 30 NGOs in Tanzania, where we were able to teach them very, very basic tech skills that will, basic does not mean that it's not effective, because basic can also mean that these things are accessible, that they're free of charge, and that they're easy to use and assimilate into everyday work. So we're able to teach them these tools online and physical location as well across. So it was training that took place across the country in a space of about 2 months. We also partnered with Artificial Intelligence for Development, AI4D Labs, and they're based at University of Dodoma here in Tanzania, and Nelson Mandela Institute in Arusha, Tanzania. So we have come together and we have also created this Girls in AI initiative, which I'll talk more about. But apart from the initiative of Girls in AI, together with Artificial AI4D Labs, we were able to also have sensitization workshops for both boys and girls, or for both men and women. I'll touch more about that as we go. We've also had the privilege of working with disabled groups. We've worked with a group called Fuavita through Global Peace Foundation of women with hearing disabilities. And we are also currently talking to them. We are currently formulating programs on how we can train them so that, especially in the area of digital marketing, so that they can market their goods without having to go out there and face the hustle and bustle of the everyday challenges that, you know, disabled people face more than the non-disabled. We're also into consulting, so create websites and do digital marketing, especially with business consulting, because when people come with their issues related to digital, we are already sitting in that position of advising, advisory, and implementation. We also automatically, this space is a hub. So when students pass through our hub or our space and they have ideas, we help nurture them and bring them to life, or we direct them to the right avenues. So far we have a number of AI projects which are in the pipeline in fintech, e-commerce, and a job recruitment, and also in partnership with AI4D Labs. We also have DarasaTech chapters, UDC chapters, in which we're talking to universities, students in Dar, in Tanzania, not in Dar, but in Tanzania. And so far we are talking to around 4 universities with around approximately 100 students. And with them, they get the first privilege of having these courses. Like if we need to launch something, or if we have a course that we'd like the public to have access to, we give this group first priority, and we keep them on the loop. We have them on our WhatsApp. We give them information, and we even nurture ideas. So we also partnered with a number of people, and we provide training alongside our partners with them. In some cases, we go alone, but by and large, this has helped us have a keen ear on the ground onto what the youth are thinking about technology, their fears, their aspirations, and we're able to nurture their ideas into real life. And we're also able to mentor them on a one-to-one basis very effectively. One of the challenges, however, from what we had experienced was, if you look at this, there's a slide here in the middle, and we're all standing in this slide, and the slide is called Identified Challenge. We're all standing in this. This is one of the workshops that we had conducted in January, actually. And we were here together with AI4D Lab. And out of all these people who were standing here, some of them had left. We were only 3 women. I hope you can see this slide. It's right here in the middle. We had only 3 women. And I think we had a 4th woman or 4th girl, or one of the students, who left in the middle of the seminar. This was quite heartbreaking to see how this important session, which was a free session, we were practically asking people, please come through and listen to the possibilities, because it was actually potential unleashed, the possibilities of AI in solving community problems and challenges. And this was very well received by the male audience. They were very excited, they were very engaging. Even the females who showed up here were very engaging, but there were only few. There were like 3 of them. And this feedback and many other feedbacks we've had before, prior to this, led us to the realization that we needed to have a separate platform that was solely engaged in targeting and recruiting female into tech, females not only into tech, but into AI. Maybe we thought there was another way of attracting women into tech. Maybe there was a need to have a more female-friendly environment that is less intimidating to attract more women. Maybe special efforts were needed to scout women and to entice them and to retain them, because having them walk through the door is another issue, but retaining them, maybe we learn different, and it's not a bad thing. And this is just feedback. So it's not finger pointing, it's just feedback. So we thought, okay, maybe we need to have a special program that is geared towards women. And through this program, our hope is to see better results, better number of participation. And because we understand the power of women in tech, we understand the power of women in AI. If only we can show up and participate, amazing things can happen. So in March 16th, to commemorate the Women's Month, we launched Girls in AI here in Dar es Salaam at COSTECH Mboni. And the theme was increasing diversity and bridging the gender gap. And the turnout was phenomenal. It was phenomenal given the diversity of participants. We had to turn a few participants away because the space and everything, the turnout was just amazing. The feedback, the engagement was electrifying. It was quite an enjoyable session. We had secondary school students and we had university students. We had innovators, people who were not in the formal education system, but they had ideas. We had educators, secondary school teachers, we had lecturers, and we had even government representatives. So it was quite engaging. And the objective of this was to launch the Girls in Artificial Intelligence initiative, but we also wanted to use that platform to raise awareness, because anytime you get a platform, you need to use it. So we use that platform to raise awareness of artificial intelligence, the importance of diversity in tech and AI. And we also use that platform to gauge, to put a listening ear, to gauge more like a needs assessment. What are the challenges that girls are facing and what do girls need, so that it enables us to create a better program for our initiative. The methodologies we used in this event was, we had 2 presentations. Again, we were in this together with Artificial Intelligence AI4D Labs. And we had presentations by both sides, DarasaTech and AI4D Labs. We had 2 strong panel discussions, question and answers, and then we left the audience to deliberate on the way forward. They gave us very good feedback, and all these secondary school students were very dynamic. They really shared with us. We created a safe space for them to share their feelings and their realization of, first of all, of artificial intelligence and their importance in being in the field. So it was, in my opinion, a successful event. The takeout was that there was a mind shift. Another takeout was that really there was a need to have more programs on artificial intelligence awareness, on data science, on technology, and there was a need for capacity building, because immediately after this, I kept getting feedback. When can we start learning about data science? When can we start learning about artificial intelligence? We have, the mindset is ready, but now we want to start doing. So this was a great feedback, and it also gave us perspective of now how do we move forward. So what is Girls in AI about? The objective here is we, together with Artificial Intelligence for Development, IFOD Labs, we want to raise awareness and motivation. We want to reach, in Tanzania, we want to reach 1,000 girls across the country, but we also want to reach girls in Africa through girls in artificial intelligence chapters. We don't want to end here. We want to spread this initiative across the continent. We are willing to have discussions. We are open to having discussions. And we are already currently speaking to Malawi, and we're speaking to Gambia on how we can move this initiative out there. But even from within Tanzania, the movement still continues. We are also looking to do research because we understand there's a lot of research out there on teaching methods and how to retain females in tech, but we really don't have them from the African context, from the African perspective, from the challenges, the individual challenges that we are facing at home, for example, from the chores that we have to do. How can we create a learning environment that will foster the girl child, foster their imagination, their need for innovation, and their tenacity to just move forward? How can these are something that we cannot do a copy and paste from what is being shared in research or in practice from other parts of the world. We need to come up with our own, so that when we're moving forward and when we're doing capacity building programs, we're doing them from a more informed position. So we're also looking to do capacity building to train female software engineers through training in female-friendly environments. And at the end of everything, we're looking to create solutions. We want these girls, women, to be able to use whatever knowledge they have gained to go out there and create solutions that would solve community problems, be it in agriculture, be it in health, be it in education, wherever, because we know that at the heart of every sector, technology wins. How do we look to do this? We look to do this through methodologies of podcasts, spreading. So with podcasts, we reach beyond 1,000. With podcasts, we'll go beyond the borders of Tanzania. We'll reach the borders, we'll reach the whole continent. We're also looking to do the research through focus groups and seminars, awareness also through seminars and moving across different groups. And since it is girls, we're looking to go to secondary school and university at the same time. Practical training, classrooms, through classrooms as well as through online. We're also looking to, in order for us to accomplish the objective of creating solutions, we are hot on engaging in hackathon events, hackathon operations, so that we can nurture and have this creative juice, so that, you know, we can get all these amazing solutions, female-led amazing solutions to community problems out there. We're currently partnered with a number of partners, as you can see here, but we are looking, this is a village. This is a village initiative. This cannot, it's only starting with us, but it cannot end with us. We need to have more people on board, whether it is with expertise, whether it's technical support, whether it's funding, but we need, this is a village. This is all of us. We are just a platform that has big dreams, and now we are sharing this dream so that we can take this out there. Thank you very much. I welcome any questions and any suggestions and any feedback. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was amazing. I am personally blown away by your journey and how you managed, to set up the program and encourage more women to join the program. And maybe just to kick off the questions as our participants are sharing their questions in the chat box. From your experience with getting more women into tech, data science, artificial intelligence, would you say the level of interest is high and they have always been hungry to learn the technologies? Or would you say it's something that, they just got onto the bus because everybody's talking about women in AI? What would you say is the uptake and, the hunger to learn the technologies?
You know what was surprising for me? I thought maybe it's like we had to drag people into the field. What I came to find out is like lack of information makes people distance. They just like stay away. But once that seed is planted, it's like people run off with it. They're like, we want more. People become very insatiable about this. So in the beginning, I thought, okay, it's gonna be like we need to drag people, like come and learn. But once you actually, if you start with sensitization, motivation, if you tell them the reason why you need to learn this, it just clicks, it just makes sense, and it's just logical. And it wakes up, it awakens some parts, some faculties in people's brains and interests. People just have this aha moment. And I've actually seen people leaving our sessions with having aha moments and like, hey, I want to do this. I have these ideas. They didn't know they had ideas. I want to invest more time in this. Where do I sign up? So I would say that it's just the lack of awareness and knowledge that keeps the person dormant. But once they have this, they're ready to go. They're fired to go. They're ready to go. Hello?
To our participants, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. This is a discussion. And, we have Dr. Mboni to our disposal today. As more questions are just coming in, I do have a question in my inbox. And it says, with setting up the program, did you face any resistance, particularly because this was an all-women's program? I know now we've got a lot of programs that are pro-women and that are encouraging a lot of women, to join the tech space. And, some men are starting to feel left out and starting to feel there is the discrimination and the exclusion that is now starting to take a shift in the other direction. So would you say you've been facing resistance in setting up your programs, or you've been facing a lot of support instead?
Thank you very much for this very big question. I see two parts in this question. In setting up the program, funny enough, I received a lot of support. And our biggest supporter at AI4D Labs, they're men. So they actually were like, we have the same, we want to also lift up women. So we are supporting this initiative together. We are together. But that does not mean that I have not seen or heard the other narrative that you brought up, which is very valid. I do come across men, and some men have actually told me that disgusted. They feel disgusted that the whole narrative is around women in tech, women, what happens to the boy child. I do understand that. I'm very sensitive about that. I'm a mother to a boy child. And the idea here is not to create an imbalance. That is how I value this whole thing. It's not to create an imbalance that would lift up women and leave the men low. It's more like we're just trying to maximize our potential as women. We're not competing. This is my narrative. We're not competing with men. We're not trying to outshine men. We're just trying to come out of our shells and maximize our potential. So yes, there is backfire from various groups. I have these discussions, and I also come across men who say, you know what, I don't really need to do much. I just need to be behind a woman who's in tech and it's good. I'm good to go. We have those narratives as well. But we're not trying to threaten any men or boys. We're just trying to come out to be the best versions of ourselves and to realize our potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I really love that. It's not a competition, but we are supporting each other, to build a better society and have more people working on solving our own African, solving our own problems within the African context. So I really like that. And thank you so much. You have done amazing work in Tanzania. And, we hope to see you upscaling and working as well on these international grounds and different African countries as well. We have a lot of people from Kenya in here. I'm sure they would love to be involved. We have South Africa, we have Zimbabwe, just to mention a few. We would really love to have, such programs coming in. And I've got a lot of comments that are saying, that's really amazing. You're doing great. We love that. And we're really grateful for the work that you've been doing. So thank you so much, Dr. Mboni. I see there is also a journalist who is part of our audience who's asking for your email address for a side interview. I'd also like to advise that we've shared email, LinkedIn profiles of our panelists and guest speakers. Feel free to reach out to them on their LinkedIn as well. At this moment in time, okay, we have one last question. And we'll take it as the program goes on. At the moment, we would like to move on to our next program, which is the panel discussion. I'm very excited about this panel discussion because we get to hear the journeys, we get to hear advice as well from some of the amazing women that we have. So we have Dr. Mboni Kibelloh, who we have just heard from, who is the founder and director of DarasaTech. We also have an amazing list of panelists. We've got Bray, who is a data scientist with Zindi at this particular moment. We also have Philomena Mbura, who is a data scientist and is part of Women in Data Nairobi. We also have Reem, not sure if she'll be able to join us, who is a data scientist as well as a blogger. At this particular point in time, I would like to invite these women to just briefly introduce themselves, give us their profiles, their names, what they do, what they studied in brief summary before we kick off the session. I'd like to invite Bray to briefly introduce herself first.
Hi, my name is Amy. I'm a data scientist at Zindi, and I set up the competitions at Zindi. Zindi was my first job after being an intern shortly for a consulting company. My degree, I've just got a basic bachelor's degree with an additional honors here, and that is in maths and physics. I'm really glad I did a couple of semesters in computer science, as that really helped me get into the data science. Thank you.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for that brief but detailed introduction. I'd also like to invite Philomena Mbura to also just give us a brief description of herself and what she does and what she studied.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. That was an amazing keynote session. I really learned a lot. It's very inspiring. So I'm a data scientist by profession. I've been in the industry for about, say, 2 years now. I studied industrial mathematics in university, so I didn't exactly go through the conventional route into getting into tech. Yeah, in brief, that's what it's about me.
All right, that's really amazing. And I'll just invite Dr. Mboni Kibelloh to also just give us a brief summary of herself, what she does, and what she studied.
Thank you very much. I would say that I've always been in tech, but I've always mixed tech with business. So I have a background in Bachelor of Computer Applications and also in Management Information Technology. And for my PhD, I did management in science and technology. And so I think the data aspect came in and out from my experience and from school itself and from interest. So I think what I'm trying to say here is there doesn't have to be a direct road to doing data science. It can find you anywhere. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. So just as we're about to get into it, we're going to get into our panel discussion. So our first question for the day, and I'd really like to direct this question to Philomena Mbura, because she does have an early career as an Android developer and as a reservoir scientist, and she pivoted into a career in data science. So I'd like to ask you, Philomena, what inspired you to pursue a career in data, and what challenges did you face along the way, coming from a different tech industry altogether?
Thank you. So growing up, I knew I always had a love for math, and I always loved computers and just wanted to learn everything that involved computers. So I like to think of data as a blend of the two. So as much as I was pursuing mathematics when I was in the university, I really had no clear picture of what I wanted to do once I finished school. So I got into tech through a program called the GADS program, Google Africa Developer Scholarship. And when I was even applying for that scholarship, I actually didn't exactly know what Android development was. And so I just did it as a by the way, and to my surprise, I got it. So that's how I got into tech. And then that's how I got into the community as well. So I got to meet very, very amazing people once I started attending the different meetups, both in school under DSC and also in the Android world. That's Android 254 and DroidCon KE. So during one of the meetups, when I was networking with one of the ladies, actually I've never met her again to date. She mentioned, when I was telling her my background, she mentioned data, and she was like, I think you would actually really thrive in data given that you have a mathematics background, and yeah, you look like you'd be somebody who'd like it. So at that time, I was really battling imposter syndrome, not even in just basic Android development. Like I would go for those meetups, I would not participate. I would just feel like I'm not, I'm there physically, but I'm not really there. Like this is not my place. You're hearing people talking about terms that you're not exactly familiar with. So even imagining myself getting into another field now called data, and already I'm not comfortable even in the Android space, I've not yet gotten to a confident place. So I didn't exactly follow the advice at that point. I just continued with Android development. And then it got to a point where I was like, Android is not for me. So I'm going to start exploring other careers. So I went into like a spiral of trying out different careers, some not even in tech. Like there's a point I worked as a receptionist. Like I was just very, very confused, and like I hadn't gotten to something that I felt like I could actually pursue in the long term. And so I got into a different company under the HR department. And when I was having a session with one of the ladies in HR, she asked me about my background, and I told her about my maths. And then she was like, I think you could maybe try out something called people analytics. So since at that time, I was pretty much open to anything. I went and researched about people analytics. So basically it's just data analytics and HR. And so I was hooked. So I started studying it online, and then I went into data now, like fully data analytics, started working on small projects here and there. And then eventually that's how I actually got into data. So one of the challenges that I really faced that I mentioned before is imposter syndrome. Now you're in a new field, you feel like you don't really have the background for it. So, and also another problem is securing a position in the data field. You've identified that this is something that you actually want to pursue. But then again, how do you convince anybody anywhere to give you that chance to actually do that job under their company and you don't have the technical expertise at that time or the background that they may need for that role. So it was really, really hard for me. I stayed jobless for quite some time when I was just reading data stuff online and doing different online, utilizing different online resources such as DataCamp, Udacity, and the likes. So I went and did a pro bono internship where I was not being paid anything, not even being given lunch. So I would go to the office every day, ask questions, get to just learn what the data team is doing and go home. And the next day, you're not exactly being assigned tasks even at the end of the day. Eventually, I learned some things here and there, and then I was able to add at least some flesh to my CV and was able to secure a position at a company in an actual data role. So another thing that I actually faced when I was getting into the space was lack of representations in terms of gender. The first meetup I ever attended had just one woman. And that's another thing that made me feel so out of place, because I just felt like, it's a room full of literally men and there's just one woman. And then at some point she even left, and it's like, you don't even know where to start. And also, it's been an interesting journey full of challenges and also full of really good things. I've had a really supportive community around me. Being a part of the tech community has really given me the backing that I need. I've met very many amazing people who have mentored me through going to such meetups, also looking online and actually reaching out to some people to ask for guidance here and there. Sometimes you may not really even get a reply from those people, but as long as you make that first step to actually get there out of your interest and out of actually working hard to overcome those challenges that you face along the way and surrounding yourself with people who actually encourage you, then you're able to overcome those challenges that I call them just hiccups along the way. It's not really failure, and unless you decide not to get back up. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. I really like the last part where you say, it's not failure, but it's just hiccups. And, every process of learning, you will hit a point where you struggle. So it's what you then decide to do when you decide to then get back up and learn until you master that particular concept you're learning. But, thank you so much. And one key takeaway that I would like our audience, to note from this story is apply for opportunities, try everything until eventually, you find what you like, you find where you want to specialize in. But otherwise, it's always good to understand, the different aspects of tech that we come through. And, straight coming from that, it leads us to our next question, which I believe is really important, especially for people who are transitioning into data. And I want to direct this question to Amy. From your profile, you volunteered to Institutes of Physics, you've got an honors in theoretical and mathematical physics. And, given that background, what do you believe are the key skills, that are needed for success in the data field? And how did you personally develop those skills? And, maybe we can find ways in which our audience can sort of follow the path that you might have taken.
Sure. So I think the most important skill is to have courage and to ask the silly questions. I learned this in my first year of university. I didn't say a word. I sat at the back of the class until I realized no one in my class knew what was going on. And I ended up being the voice for my class and asking all the stupid questions, even once my lecturers went like, "Are you joking?" And I've taken that with me into business meetings, into team meetings. I've now been working at Zindi for 4 years, and I still ask the newest person on the team for help. What is this? I really look to my leadership team when I need help. So I think the top skills is courage. We recently did a team development, and you had to say what your superpower is. And I said my superpower was asking for help or saying when I needed help. When you're working either in a university group or a peer group or at work, someone can always help you. They might not be able to help you with the super intense code review, but they can definitely just say, hey, I'm here for you. How did I develop these skills? Through trial and error, and also through affirmation. Each time I asked for help, and each time I learned something new, it really reinforced that this is the best way to go through it. I'm not encouraging that you just ask for help and don't use your own brain. I'm encouraging that you try it out, do some research, try and upskill. But when you're hitting your head against a brick wall, or you're overwhelmed, or you need help with time management, reach out to someone in your company, a senior, a peer, and they can normally provide the relief you need. And sometimes there is no answer. Sometimes you just keep pushing at this brick wall, and the answer is to drop it and to go into something else. Yeah, so courage, asking for help, and just an eagerness to learn. This is a constantly growing field. I don't think anyone's going to have all the answers. So just keep learning.
Thank you so much. I really liked your point on asking the silly questions and then realizing that nobody in your class actually knew what was going on, but everybody was just quiet because everybody was afraid of asking the stupid questions. But you find that the more you start asking questions, the more you're actually comfortable with learning and, you know, the continuous asking questions, learning and experimenting by yourself. So I think that's a really great takeaway, to continuously ask for help and reinforce whatever you're learning. Courage is very important in the tech field. And you know, that's very interesting because we've got a lot of people in our audience who are just getting into the data field. Some are unsure on which direction to take. And I think the next question is really great for Dr. Mboni as a person who's working with, you know, young girls in AI, young girls in data. And the question would be, what advice, you know, would you give to women who are just starting out in their data careers? And how can they overcome any barriers that they may face?
Thank you so much for this question. I want to say very great insights I've picked up from the other panelists. It's just amazing. I'm going to probably also borrow a couple of things they said, whether it's from the imposter syndrome or whether it's asking for help. I just want to add another layer to that. For girls or women who are coming into the field of data science or tech, whatever it is in this field, I would just say, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because anytime you're doing something new, it's never comfortable. It's very scary, and it doesn't get old. Like, you would learn one skill and you say, like, I've mastered this skill. You move to just a few moments and it's out of fashion, or it's out of something new comes in, and opportunities will come. So many opportunities will come. But if you're not comfortable with being uncomfortable, then you will say no to a lot of opportunities and you'll miss out. So just open a picnic basket in the midst of your wilderness, in the midst of your discomfort, and just know that that season will pass and you'll become an expert. So a lot of things, a lot of reasons why women and girls are not even taking up these opportunities is their fear of being ridiculed, fear of looking stupid, fear of learning something new, and the pain of learning something new. Whatever it is that pain shows up, you just need to embrace it and take up the challenge and go for it. Because at some point, it's not going to be a challenge anymore. It will be a norm. And then you need to climb another mountain. So it's a very generalistic, you can say, advice, but I think everything stems from the mindset. that if you can take care of your mindset, you can practically learn anything and everything that you set your mind to. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. One interesting aspect that, all our panelists have been mentioning is, how the field is constantly changing, how you can never know everything, but you can know enough. And how if you give yourself pressure to know everything, you might just burn out and you might not even like the field.
My check.
I can hear you, Delilah, but I think Sherilyn might have lost her internet.
Oh, okay. So I think she might have had a connectivity issue, but before she joins back in, yes, I would like to still thank you guys for sharing those awesome sentiments, and maybe to usher in Reem. I think she has joined us. Reem is one of the panelists who is part of the event. I think something delayed her on her end, but she's able to join us now. So Reem, are you here? Oh, okay. Maybe you can unmute and say hi and introduce yourself as we wait for Sherilyn to be back.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Reem.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me. And I would like to apologize also for joining late. I would like to thank you all for being here. And I'm so glad to hear from all the experiences of the amazing women that I participate with them, answering your questions in this panel today. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Reem. We are glad to have you join us. I'll hand it back to our moderator and she will continue the session, Sherilyn.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry for that. I had just had a brief power cut. So we will be back in motion in a moment. Thank you so much, Rose, for introducing our panelist, one of our panelists, Reem, who is a data scientist, who is also a blogger. She has also been doing great work in the industry. And, as we're going to hear more about what she's been doing, I'm sure we'll also learn a lot from her. So maybe within the next minute or two, I will kindly ask Reem to just introduce herself, tell us what she's doing, what she studied in brief, and then we can move on with our panel discussion.
Yes, sure, Sherilyn. Thank you so much. So my name is Reem. I work as a data scientist at a company called Silla, where we develop different machine learning models, mainly natural language processing models for languages that has like low resources like Arabic. And the main idea is to develop different models where we're able to access different customers through analyzing their sentiment, emotion, and dialect for the posts that they use or they post online or tweets or any types of content that they publish in different social media accounts or platforms. Prior to that, I've worked with different or couple of industries. and my background is in computer science, and then I did a master's in mathematics, applied mathematics to be specific, where I worked with predictive models. So it's quite a journey, like navigating through different machine learning aspects, but I would say that it has ups and downs, and of course it was very, very challenging and educational at the same time. So yeah, I'm so happy to share to shed a light on some of the things that I went through. And I hope that by the end of this session, you will get to learn more and perhaps to avoid some of the mistakes that I've learned from the past. So it can ease your journey in this field, hopefully. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That was very detailed. Also, just to let our audience know, Reem is also a podcaster, and I'm sure we'll get to know more about that as well as we continue with the program. So, you know, we were just talking about how the data field and the tech field in general is continuously changing. You know, one moment there's a new tool, you know, there's a new solution built by AI. There are also no-code tools that are coming up. So, I mean, there's a lot that is coming up within the data field. So my next question, I would like to direct this one to Amy. You know, as a data scientist and as a competition lead at Zindi, you know, where, you know, she works with clients to form Zindi, and these are really all coming from different industries. So maybe my question to Amy would be, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and development in the data field? And what resources do you rely on? And what resources can our audience rely on as we are trying to stay up to date as well?
I'm in a really tricky position, is that I don't have the choice. I have to stay up to date. So just a background of what I do at Zindi is we find clients, and a client comes to us saying, oh, we want to estimate biomass in Côte d'Ivoire. I'm like, I have to ask the question, what is biomass, in a call in front of all these fancy people? So that's the first, asking stupid questions and just being courageous. I then need to ask, what do they want their solution to do? And they start throwing out these big, scary words. And I just say, and I have to follow up with an email after the call. So while they're busy saying all these big, fancy words and what satellites they're going to be using, I'm frantically writing down this all in my notebook or on my computer. And I spend the next 2 hours just Googling before replying to them. We then launch the competition, and I think I'm up to speed. I think I've got it. And someone goes and posts in the discussion forum asking the most obvious question. And I go, shoot, let me go and Google that, or let me go back to the client and ask for help. And then the end of the competition comes, and I'm like, I think we've got this. But the worst is yet to come. Me and my team then have to code review these solutions. What's absolutely brilliant about Zindi is we give the best of the best, the top solutions to the clients. This is out of thousands of people competing. So the top solution that wins is the most cutting edge model. And code review doesn't mean just reading through it and making sure it runs. It's understanding. So if the client asks questions, we can explain. And that's really hard. We do about 2 code reviews for competitions each month. So we're constantly learning. The last competition I code reviewed for was an image recognition task. And they used a YOLO V5 model, which had recently come onto the market. And I actually had to admit to the client that I had no idea what was going on. even after trying to figure it out. So my recommendation to you is, how do you keep up with what's going on? Zindi is a great reflection about what's happening in the market, because if there's lots of NLP development happening in the market, it's likely we've got lots of NLP competitions. If there's lots of computer vision happening and models being built, it's likely Zindi will have lots of computer vision models. Working at Zindi for 4 years, we've seen that there's that reflection. So what I recommend is, you don't have to enter all the competitions, but I challenge you to log on to Zindi every so often, see what competitions are out there, read the description, read the data, and then just play a mental game with yourself. You don't have to code or anything. Just ask yourself, how would you solve this? Read the discussion board, build that solution in your head. I know we don't all have the time to sit and code these winning solutions, but it's really good to stretch your brain and figure out what's going on. At the end of the competition, the winners normally share their solution, and we also share a blog about the winners. So this is a great to come back 3 months later to see, like, I made this thing in my mind, what did they make in person? And really dig into their code and let them do the hard work for you. It's a great way to learn from them. Another thing I do is I love listening to podcasts. I know Reem is a podcaster, so make sure you like mentally put that in your mind as well. So this is while cooking, cleaning, driving. It's just so nice to have something stimulating to listen. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I really like how after each competition, there's always a blog and the winners share their solutions. I think that's also really great for even our audience here to use that, as a resource to continuously keep developing themselves within the data field as well, stay up to date with some trends, that the winning solutions might have used for everyone. I think with that being said, one area of interest to me that has been coming up as we've been discussing all this are in terms of projects. A lot of times to be successful, we're told you need to have projects that you can showcase, you need to have projects that can show your skill. And as we're about to wrap up, I think an important question, and I'd like to direct this to Reem as well as Philomena. I know with Reem, you've worked on projects with web scraping, natural language processing, developing machine learning models and research. And I know with Philomena, she's worked with, classifier models, text annotations for the improvement of chatbots that she's worked on. So for the both of you, starting with Reem, in your experience, what are some of the most exciting and impactful data projects that you have worked on? And how did you personally, as Reem, contribute to the success of that project? I'll hand this to Reem.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. To be honest, I like the projects that are more related to images, like working with computer vision is really interesting for me because I can easily see the progress of the project, and I can see, like, for example, if I'm working on image classification, I can easily use data, although that the amount of data is kind of challenging if you would like to work in and produce a very high accuracy model if we're talking about classification. But then on the other hand, if we look around, we can see that most of the data that is available is highly unstructured, and that can be in a form of text or videos or images. So recently, I've been working on bounding boxes project, and to be specific, it's image recognition. It's not recognition, but it's like image detection or object detection. So in the main idea of the object detection concept is basically to apply two concepts. The first one is image classification. First of all, you would like to know what are the objects in each and every image. Secondly, you would like to draw a bounding box around each object, right? So for example, if we're thinking of an image that has cat and a dog in it, I would like to be able to know that this image contains two objects, and these objects are cat and a dog, among us, of course, the rest of the objects in the data set, and also to be able to draw like a box around the dog and another box around the cat. And in that project, I've used what Amy mentioned earlier, the YOLO model. And that YOLO model tries, like, it has a very high accuracy compared to the previously used models. And it tries to identify the bounding boxes for each object by drawing multiple of them. And the higher of like number of whenever we have like multiple boxes overlapping, then in that case, there is a higher priority for that box to be an object. Yeah. So I like it because I could easily apply that to a different concept, like, for example, logo detection, where we are interested in identifying logos for different brands in an image. And you can think of that and extend it to a video where you be able to identify people who are moving around, and it can be applied in a security systems, monitoring, and so on. So that's one of the projects that I really liked working on, perhaps because it's kind of different than the projects that I used to work on before. And I would say that I don't know if someone mentioned this before or not, but the learning process for any new technique, because it was new to me, it has some phases. Yeah. So first you will see it as a very challenging task. And then if you choose your preferred medium, for example, if you'd like to read an article and that's your best way of learning, then go for it. Then if you prefer, I don't know, maybe YouTube videos, I like going through different tutorials to be able to demystify a specific concept. And that's what I did in learning this new concept. And after that, when it comes to applying this new knowledge, try developing something that not necessarily from scratch, but if you try to mimic an example that you've already seen before, it becomes easy for you to apply the same knowledge that you obtain in a new project. So yeah, that's my advice to everyone. Just try to find your preferred medium and then try to apply that concept you've learned in solving the problem that you wanted. So like in real life, you might not be able to find a solution, like the exact same solution for the exact problem that you're working on. But of course, you will find some other stuff that are very similar, and make use of ChatGPT. You can post your technical questions and add as much details as you want. And I'm quite sure you will get very specific answers to your technical questions written down. You can copy them and then try them yourself and see. And it saves a lot of time, like huge time can be saved doing that. So yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Reem. That is all really exciting project, and I think everyone that's listening in, we're all ready to go and start experimenting and learning and working on, similar projects like what you've mentioned. Sometimes you can find a project and, try to duplicate the project, but using a selected medium. Everything does not necessarily need to be the same, but the core concept is to keep learning. So I'll just throw this to Philomena as well, to find out, in your experience, what are some of the most exciting and impactful projects you have worked on, and how did you contribute to their success?
Thank you. One of the most exciting projects, I'll keep it to one, that I'm currently even working on it right now, is at my current workplace. So it's a fuel consumption model for tractors. So when I was starting out on the problem, honestly, it felt like a maze. You know, one of those things where you are explained to, like, this is the problem and you need this solution. And now you're just wondering, how am I gonna get from A to Z to achieve that desired solution? Kind of like what Amy was explaining just a few minutes ago. So how I was able to crack at least the very first part of the problem was actually from a very simple Excel sheet, which is the list of what you'd expect. I thought that I would start with a very complex solution, you know, researching, and I just started from very high up, then sort of just came down to the basics of statistics and mathematics, and eventually was able to crack the first part of the solution. So one thing that I usually do, and because for me, when I speak to people, it often opens my mind up. So I usually call up my colleagues, and then I would bounce off my ideas of them, and like, how about if I try this approach, and we discuss maybe these are the disadvantages. So it's same in line in what the rest of the panelists were saying. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially even those questions you think are very dumb, because even when you're in this data space, you actually really need to ask those quote unquote dumb questions, because they're not exactly dumb, but if you're going to come up with a solution that's actually going to work for the various stakeholders that you're actually building your solutions for, whether it's a model or a dashboard, you actually have to ask those silly little questions for you to get the in-depth understanding, because you're not going to be a domain expert for every other field. So those questions become very, very vital when you're coming up with the solutions. So yeah, so that's the most interesting project that I've worked on so far, to be honest. Yeah, and every expert was once a beginner. So please be very gentle with yourself once you're working on this project, and be very open to working on even projects that you may not have, but you may not feel like you have the experience for it.
Well, thank you so much. That is really exciting, and I'm sure our audience is paying attention. To our panelists, please feel free to respond to some of the questions in the chat, since we have limited time. And to our participants, please feel free to ask questions. The panelists will be answering your questions in the chat. And, you know, as we're closing off our program, there is one important question that, you know, I would like all the panelists to answer. And, you know, I think maybe I'll start with Philomena, since you were already on the stage. And the question is, how can we use data to drive positive social change and innovation? And maybe just add on with the legacy that you hope to leave for future generations of women in this field. I am not sure if you managed to get that. I'll repeat it. You know, as we're wrapping up, it's very crucial that, you know, as data scientists or as people who are getting into data, we use data ethically, and, you know, in all that we do, we try to drive positive change within our communities. So I'd like to ask, you know, our panelists to answer how, you know, each and every one of us who are getting into data can use data to drive positive social change and innovation. And, you know, each of them to answer what legacy they hope to leave for future generations of women in the field. So maybe I'll just go in order of how I can see my panelists here. I'll start with Dr. Mboni.
Thank you very much for the question. I think you have like two questions in one. I see data as the new frontier. I see data as oil. I see data as making the world go round. Anytime we talk about tech, it's the smallest particle of an element. So I see there is a need for us to look at data with a fresh perspective, and how can we incorporate it in any field. There is no boundaries with data. So, and therefore it is not discipline specific. So, and anybody can bring it into any area for development, whether it is in agriculture, whether it is in health, whether it is in logistics. So I encourage everybody to be able to have that openness towards it and bring it into whichever sphere. I always tell my students, there's no area that you can mention that does not have data. And it is actually in everybody's interest to take it and run off with it. What kind of legacy do I want to leave? I think I'm already trying to do that now, is to make data language, to make data friendly and appealing to the mass, to bring, and in this case, to lift women into this area, into this sector, because we need the participation. We need to see their way of thinking and their way of solving problems in a very unique way, and for them to bring that problem-solving skill into solving community. So if I could see more girls and more women participating in this field, that will be my greatest satisfaction. So we're in the process of that through our initiatives. And the more women feel comfortable with it, and the more women talk about tech and data, the more satisfied I think I would feel, and I would feel like I've left a legacy. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That was very inspirational. I will move on to my next panelist. I'll ask Amy Bray to also give us an answer on how she believes we can use data to drive positive social change and innovation, as well as the legacy that she hopes to leave for future generations of women in the field.
I find the most impact I have is when I have one-on-one discussions or small group discussions, where I explain the intricacies of data, and when viewing a chart or a statistic, what does that mean? I listened to an interesting podcast called Smelling a Number. And to see if that number has, or that fact has the right context around it. And I think if more people read stats and charts more critically, we'll be in a more mindful environment. And what I hope to leave for future generations, at my company, I have the opportunity to say who I would like to hire next if we are hiring. And when I put forward a list of people I would like to hire, I'll always make sure that there is a 50-50 split between genders. And if you are ever in a leadership role, I think that's really important that you figure out where you can throw your weight around, whether that's participating in panel discussions, spending that extra half an hour after 5 p.m. with that female intern. Do it.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's a very crucial point to say, people of influential positions and leadership positions, decision makers, can actually, make a difference in getting more women into data. I'd like to ask our last panelist, Reem, to also give us, her input on how we can use data to drive positive social change and innovation, as well as the legacy that she hopes to leave for future generations of women in data.
Thank you for the question. I think my colleagues have answered the first question in a very structured way, and I also do share the same thoughts with them. I would like also to add that to drive a change that doesn't depend on a gender, and all of us as part of a community, we can definitely be active members by being in a room, by being the person who will deliver a message or maybe convey a message of the strength of the data itself. So if you have the chance to inform or enlighten different people who are not aware of how data can be powerful, be that person and take the lead. And to answer your second question, I would like to say that we as women being in this field, which is one of the STEM fields that are highly dominant with our males or men colleagues, being in this field as itself is something, and it sets us apart. And of course, I'm quite sure that there are so many of our young leaders and young women in this session today who are joining, who are still studying or at uni, and seeing us in this field working, going outside, working in different areas in industry, academia as well, will definitely give them like an example that they can see and they can definitely follow. So thank you so much for having me. And I would like to thank the panelists also for sharing their helpful thoughts and knowledgeable, of course.
All right, thank you so much. I think we can all agree that this has been a very insightful webinar and discussion all the way from, the beginning. We've got key insights on how, as you're starting in the field, always feel free to ask the silly questions. Never be afraid to ask the silly questions. One of the key skills as you're starting your career in data science and as you're transitioning into data science, or, even if you're an expert, it's always important to have courage. Have courage to ask the questions, have courage to ask for help. And one of the other key things is you can never know everything, but you should be daring enough to experiment. Try out different things, try out new things, find out what you like, find your niche, be well-rounded in wanting to learn and always having hunger to learn. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our panelists and our guest speakers who have sacrificed their time to be with us here tonight in this webinar. We have shared their links on the chat, so feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn should you still have, any more questions that you need to ask. We have also shared our Zindi community WhatsApp group. We've got a Zindi data community on WhatsApp. Feel free to click on the link, join the community of a diverse pool of data scientists, entry-level experts as well, where you can also ask a lot of questions that you might have access and opportunities to attend some of the programs that we post in the group. Also, please feel free to scan the QR code, which is up on the screen, and join our Zindi community, to stay informed and stay up to date. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining into this webinar. This is the end of our webinar. We will be sharing the link to the recording. Please feel free to reach out and interact with each other as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.